welcome back to Hit the Gap, the final, not even regular season, but final episode of the year after our grand final that's just concluded, just happened, with the Penrith Panthers, who would have guessed, taking out a fourth straight premiership.
The four-peat.
The four-peat, yeah, and not done in the modern era, anyway, at least, the salary cap era, if that's what you want to call it, but yeah, the reign continues. Something pretty phenomenal, really. I mean, all things considered, pretty phenomenal for a team that's continuously lost players since the start of their run, or even their first grand final appearance.
I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, you look at it and you go, it's the salary cap era. It's the salary cap era, but they've managed to do it just time and time and time again. It's not. It's like the first year they lost someone. The second year they lost two. The third year they lost a whole bunch, and now it's sort of like it almost feels like they've just, it doesn't matter to lose players to them. You know?
Yeah.
They seem to just, the system is just so strong.
Continued their dominance or continual dominance throughout. That's it. The salary cap doing what it should be doing anyway. It's they're adhering to it very clearly. But something pretty unheard of or pretty unexpected anyway. I think most people were pretty sort of open to the Storm winning, or of the mind that the Storm were probably the only ones that could do it. But
I'd even argue people wrote Penrith off like for most of the year.
To an extent, yeah. It was clear though, I think probably even 10 minutes into that game, that those two are the only two teams that were going to compete against each other. Like if there was anyone else in the league that were playing either one of them, be it Storm or Penrith in that grand final, then it would have been an obliteration. Yeah, exactly right. Like there was just no one that was going to stand up or even get close to the game that we saw, or the competition that we saw initially anyway. So
especially of that defensive nature as well. Like there was just, I don't think there's any other teams that have that level of defense in them.
Yeah, exactly. We before we go on any further, we might jump back to the prelims real quick and talk about them. I mean, obviously we know who won them, but the first prelim was the Storm versus the Roosters there, one that as you mentioned before we started, that Roosters were ahead on initially, and then it just ended up being an absolute throttling. Something pretty massive for a prelim. Like it's an odd score.
It's an odd score for a prelim. I agree.
Yeah, 40 or 30 points, 30-point margin, 48-18. Yeah, so.
And I mean, you know, they started this game like the first probably 10-15 minutes. The Storm were struggling. They had the foot on their neck. The Roosters just they were on the pump.
They were there to compete. Yeah.
Yep. They even and I mean even after the I think it was mainly because it was compounded by the Nelson thing, but
yeah.
Which, boy, did that make a difference in the following week. But either way, I think, you know, the Roosters really had them by the scruff, and they were really taking it to them. And then they got their full 13 back on field, and they just started rolling them like just endlessly, just did not stop.
Yep, mercilessly. Yeah, it was like I said, the end score line, and that was pretty wild. But from halfway through the game onwards, man, it was all the Storm's game. Like I didn't get to watch all of it, mainly just the highlights because I was out at work on night shift, but just anything I saw, it was all the Storm's game. So again, further compounding how the Storm have been this year and their form they've been in this year as a whole. Just sort of a cut above the rest, really, when you think about it.
And I mean, credit to them, right? I mean, they did at least try and fight back in that second half when they first came out.
Yeah.
But it just didn't matter. The Storm just came straight back and just kept rolling. They just did not care.
Probably marred a lot by injury to the Roosters, unfortunately. There's not a whole lot really they could do. I mean, as we've spoken about a few times before, they've got a fair bit of depth in their positions, but in terms of a team that's run on and played or trained throughout the year, and
having to shuffle the amount of players that they've had to shuffle is just so
all played together. Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. Especially coming into prelims, you don't want to be down a few key players, which is exactly what happened. So,
losing Sam Walker was just
even Smith arguably, I think too.
I would agree, Smith as well.
A big loss for them
because he's a very big part of their set components, their set play components. So, and I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it was Sandon. I think it's Sandon. Smith. I think he did a great job. I think the first week it was a bit shaky, but in the first prelim, And this one was much, much better than that. But it's just, what do you do?
Yeah, exactly. It's
it might be your role, but you weren't involved in like making those plays at those times and those set things trained for.
Or he hasn't even had that much first grade time throughout the year. Like, he's had filled in a bit in the last couple of years, I think. But yeah, like exactly right, like you're saying, he's just not there. He wasn't there at the time to meld with the team like the rest of them, I guess you could say. So
Exactly.
yeah, unfortunately for the Roosters, season ending there. But still, considering, I mean, it's a pretty common thing, it seems to be, for the Roosters, a theme where they just seem to get some key injuries going into the finals. Pretty good to see. Roosters fans got to be happy at least to see them make the prelims. So Storm coming away with the win on that one, as well as the Saturday game, Penrith versus the Sharks. And again, this one probably went as well as most people thought it would, even though some people were hoping it might go the other way. But Penrith 26 points to 6 against the Sharks. It was just I don't know. Again, I didn't watch it because I was at work, but from what I saw, it was just a comedy of some errors and stuff like that at times, or maybe big pressure moments just getting the better of the Sharks, really.
Yeah.
But
I mean, realistically, this was a 60-minute like tussle.
Yeah.
There was only, I think there was probably 2 brief defensive lapses in the entire game, right up until the 60th minute, and then it just the Sharks just fell apart.
Yep.
I think it was literally just that, like they
got the better of them.
Yeah, like I think it was literally 6-6 until, or 8-6. I think it was actually 8-6 until maybe. Yep. Oh god, it was probably like 59, 60 minutes.
Yep.
And then they just sort of like, I think Sharks had, or it was 8-0. Sorry, 8-0. Then the Sharks scored. On the 60th minute.
Yep.
And then it fell apart.
Yep.
Right after they score a try, they fall apart.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Toto, Alamotti, and then Martin almost consecutively, all straight after each other. So, yeah, just maybe it got to that point where the Sharks, whether it was fatigue or what, had set in, but they just, very much gotten the better of them. It looked like, they'd probably put out all they could or fought all they could, really. And Penrith, again, as they do, just turning the screws, and at the right time, once they'd gotten that little bit of an advantage in the arm wrestle, just finishing them off. So not as much of a pumping as the previous game, but definitely still a decent or a dominant win from Penrith anyway in that one. And like we said, probably more or less expected.
Yeah.
From most
the
people,
other thing as well, I think, is Paul Alamotti. He had a lot of work to do this game. He had a lot of work to do.
Yep.
And he really stood up for this. Like, really big time.
Yep. So he's definitely staked a claim ever since coming from the Bulldogs this year. He's made a bit of a name for himself there at Penrith, filling in, or I think initially filled in maybe, or something like that, and made that spot his own. So having that broken arm, I think he got against the Cowboys possibly, or something later in the normal season. Anyway, he's sort of healed up from that and come back in, stepped straight back in, and done real well, definitely. But yeah, so we'll move on to the grand final. Obviously, Melbourne Storm taking on the Penrith Panthers here. So fifth consecutive grand final appearance for the Panthers, which again, even that alone,
that's a stat.
Result out of the picture, non-relevant there. Like five straight grand finals is pretty hectic as it is. But
I mean, an even wilder stat to think about is, I think Nathan. I remember reading it yesterday, but Nathan Cleary has won 16 out of 21 games he's played in NRL finals.
Yep.
Having a 75% win rate.
Yeah.
In in finals territory is fucking wild.
Yep.
That's wild.
Especially talking from he started out young. Obviously, that first year they went on that run was, I think it might have even been his second year. It wasn't his first year, but second year in first grade. So, yeah, getting those reps under your belt early on definitely helps. And, we've seen it year after year when it comes to finals game experience, composure and experience, and that it's definitely stood out, that's for sure.
Yeah.
This game, though, the grand final, obviously Penrith Panthers taking it out, like we said earlier, with their 4th straight win. 14 points to the Melbourne Storm 6, where Cleary on this one had only converted 2. He'd only converted 2 of the 3, one of the 3 tries, I should say, rather, but didn't matter in the end. I think very, very big arm wrestle, like we mentioned earlier. It was a contest, a very big arm wrestle for a majority of the first half, really. I think it was only right at the end of the first half Penrith got their second try. So it was 0-0 up until it was 6-0, pretty much straight after. they both tied it up. And then, Liam Martin goes over in the 38th minute just before half-time there, which was, for me, what I saw was probably just a bit of a lapse in defence from Melbourne or whatever. Maybe a bit of fatigue, a little bit. It just sort of made him second guess. And then, Martin, as he does, stormed on and went over there. So that gave Penrith a little bit of a comfortable lead.
I think what was strange to me with that particular play as well is that probably the last two plays prior, he ran the exact same line, and it was literally they just thought, they're not going to try it a third time.
They almost second guessed it.
They second guessed it and got done in by it. So
yeah, exactly. So,
but full credit to Liam because he was literally everywhere this game. He was everywhere.
And being the Clive Churchill medalist, definitely someone deserving of it in this game specifically. I mean, he's had a big year when you consider Origin 100%. As well and stuff like that. But this game definitely in everything. There was probably a couple of them, a handful of them that would have been in contention for it. But definitely Liam Martin, the worthy recipient of it. The thing that I think stood out for me was, I mean, we're not going to be here talking about official or like officiating and stuff like that because, in my opinion, it wasn't that bad. I mean, there were definitely some things that, you scratch your head at, but at the end of the day, it's nothing more than a bit of Penrith privilege, nothing we already are aware of, but nothing in terms of blunders, I don't think, in my opinion. The only one big thing that sort of stood out was maybe the Howarth try that looked like it was, but it could have gone either way because being...
It's still 50-50.
Yeah, being sent up as a no try, there's no conclusive evidence, to prove that he got it down, then, you have to rule with that. So it's something you could probably live with in context to the game that sucked, but probably live with that one. Just little bits here and there, that Penrith sort of benefited from, little things that didn't get picked up on or whatnot, but... Again, the nothing, no major blunders or any game-breaking calls or anything that gave Penrith the advantage. What I think it was definitely the inexperience of the Storm at the end of the day. The thing that stood out to me early on and then, for the rest of the game was just the errors that, relatively uncharacteristic errors as well, but just errors from the Storm. So I think Howarth dropped a couple balls there and then... was it Alec McDonald?
Yeah,
Alec McDonald. Yeah. And there was a couple just drop balls or forward passes, loose carries, things like that just things at times that once Penrith got that opportunity, they, as they always do, they made the most of it.
And that's the thing, really. I mean, you look at this game and how it went out, it was literally just a case of Penrith took, they both had moments where they could ice the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Storm instead dropped the ball, whereas Penrith just scored off it.
And even if they didn't score, they set themselves up. They set themselves up. Yeah, that's right. Or to be dominant, to take advantage and win the arm wrestle on that. Because it was, for a lot of the game, it seemed like it was almost end to end. One team would get a bit of field possession or advantage in that, and then it would just swing the other way, sort of thing. There'd be 2 or 3 sets where Penrith had the advantage.
They'd either wrestle it back, or someone would do something to make it even again.
Yeah, there'd be an error or something, and Storm would have it back, or there'd be a break. That's exactly right. So
both Luai and Cleary were very instrumental in this game.
Yeah,
really,
definitely.
Really, really amazing performance from them both.
And I think possibly for Cleary's standard, in my opinion anyway, he was a little bit quiet in terms of what we've known him for.
At least on the running front anyway.
It was almost, he ran a fair bit, I thought, early on. Maybe toward the end he sort of slowed down a bit, but he did run the ball a bit early on. But I think that might have been part of it. It almost seemed as if it was a bit of the Hines and Trindle trick where... he'd sort of start to take the back seat and then let Luai run or Luai kick and sort of do stuff. That's another thing I noticed from Penrith, where it was almost a little bit of a dynamic shift just to keep Melbourne guessing, and it paid off. It definitely paid off.
Definitely.
Not to say that Cleary wasn't good at all by any means, but it just seemed like he was a bit more... He'd taken the back seat at times a bit more to let Luai sort of take control, and whether that was their whole game plan all along, who knows? But yeah, as I said, it definitely worked, I think.
Especially when you consider how shut out Jerome Hughes was the entire game.
Yeah.
He could not do a damn thing.
They had him. They did have him pinned, man.
Well and truly pinned.
He had a couple all right runs where he'd made meters or little breaks and stuff like that, but those are the ones you see where there's someone on the inside or he's got someone to pass off to and make something of it. And just, nothing. Penrith were there. They were ready. There was a lot of, I think, too, really, really good discipline tackles and stuff from Penrith in terms of offloads going to someone and whoever was around making the tackle. So might have even been someone that was behind the player that had received the ball. But I think Martin was actually one of them. Oh, no, sorry, Tago was one of them where Hughes or whoever it was, might have even been Grant, had made a break and then offloaded to someone. And as soon as they got that ball, that's when...
That was Tungo.
Yeah, Tungo made that tackle sort of thing. So it wasn't any earlier, wasn't any later. It was right on the point. So
I think their defensive reads were just incredible.
Yeah, a lot of discipline in that in defence, 100%. And yeah, like, I mean, not talking about any sort of dodgy shit that may have happened, or little times they'd push the pen a little bit, but yeah, it definitely insane defensive reads and quality, I think, in their discipline with it as well. So, and yeah, that's it. That's how they did it. All combined, it's made them what they are, or got them to where they are with their fourth straight. So, unfortunately for the rest of the league, everyone's going to have to listen to a whole another year of Panthers rhetoric, but that's what it is. That's I almost feel like I know what it was like to be a New South Welshman during the Queensland decade of dominance. It's almost a similar thing, not as long running yet or anything, but just at that same standard where you can't really deny it, or you can't really argue it, sort of thing. Like regardless, it's pretty phenomenal. Yeah,
it's not like they just had one stacked year or anything like that. They just kept going.
Kept going. Yeah, exactly right. And yeah, even in these years and that, where there's been a little bit of lapses or lulls, sort of thing, rather for them, you think, oh, that's it, they're finally tripping up, or they're finally starting to wear out and fatigue. Nope, they get on with it, get back into it, and get on with it, and straighten out and bring it home. So another good win for a year by the Penny Panthers there. Unfortunately, the Storm missing out, but hey, as a Storm fan, you've got to be probably not so stoked with the performance. It was a gritty one, nonetheless, but not so stoked with the result, rather. But the year in general, you've got to be pretty happy about. If there's any sort of indicator that next year they're going to be coming out firing, coming out strong, then you'd think this season would have to be it, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I think this is just a really, really good general sort of return to great form from the Storm as well.
Yeah,
I mean, they were pretty injury riddled last year, but
yeah,
and they had a bit of a rough run this year too. Really, I mean, Munster was out half the year, Paps was out half the year.
Yeah. Even the year before, not last year, the year before that, I think it was more a form thing. I think Brandon Smith was still there at this time.
Correct, yes.
And Penrith might have knocked him out, I believe.
Was Nico Hines still there as well?
That might have been the first year he left, I think.
First year he left,
they definitely sort of almost just lost form a bit, or they just went under the radar a bit, sort of thing. Sort of... Whatever it might have been, it was a bit unusual for him. But this year you're right, they've just sort of reined it in despite anything, especially those times they were without Munster or Hughes at times.
Honestly, I mean, you really got to take your hat off people like Nick Meaney. He's really done the hard yards for that team,
and Wishart as well.
Tyron Wishart is incredible. Yeah,
after having a relatively tough start to the year, in my opinion. Him and Pezzett as well. I think they were combined at the start of the year when out of necessity, and just sort of a little bit of a rough run. But as the year's gone on, he's just unlocked his potential at that 14. So
man, Tyron's got he's got a bit more about him than just like a bit of Harry. Like it's like Harry's obviously taught him a few things here and there.
Yeah,
they have a very similar sort of run and gun play style. Yeah. But he's got a lot of flair about him too. Like he's got almost like a half flair,
Yeah,
which is
a bit.
Very, very scary for the future as long as they keep him on and keep playing him.
Yeah, exactly right. Probably
all he really needs is game time.
Yep.
Just more game time.
Yep, and I mean he's happy playing 14 at the moment, from what he'd said recently. Just honing his craft, sort of thing. But one day there's going to be a team that's going to need a 7, and I don't. Yeah, Hughes is.
They're going to throw him for now,
money. So there's going to be a lot of money coming at him.
Big money.
Probably better for him for a year or two, even to just keep doing what he's doing and take the opportunity when he can to play 7 at the Storm. But yeah, he'll no doubt each year get better and better, and that'll be it. He'll be a halfback for a team, a needing team in the future that'll be stoked to have him.
Should even a hooker.
Yeah,
I think he could be one of the highest paid hookers in the game too if he actually wanted to do it.
Yeah, exactly right.
He'd probably have to put on another few kilos, but I think realistically he's probably one of the most dynamic 14s you can have in the game right now.
Most useful for sure,
Mm.
most definitely, man, 100%. With that though, there's not a whole lot more I don't think to talk about with the grand final there. Obviously, there's a couple departing players from Penrith next year. I think Taruva and Luai are going. So
yeah, two very big, another two more big pieces of the puzzle. So
yeah, once again we're seeing two more make their way out of the side and off to the Tigers next year. So I don't know if they're losing anyone else as such. I know they're picking up Papali in that next
James
year.
Fisher-Harris.
And yeah, that is the other one. You're right. James Fisher-Harris off to the Warriors, and then they're picking up IPAP. IPAP's going there, so we'll see. We'll be yet to see what next year holds for Penrith in terms of form and that, and where they go. But if the last 4 or 5 years even have been any indicator, then I'm sure they're going to be a dominant force for
strong contender
for the future to come. Yeah, foreseeable future still at the very least,
providing Cleary can stay uninjured, but I think he's going to have surgery now, so
yep.
Hopefully
going
he
into the off season,
does have a good off season.
Yep, perfect time to do it, get it all done, and ready for pre-season training and that, and get back into it before next year. So he's fit and fighting ready.
100%.
Yep. That pretty much wraps up the year for the Telstra Premiership. Anyway, I think not done by any means. Football's not done. We've got the Pacifica Nation Championships or competition rather coming up in
Pacific
a week or two.
Championships, yeah.
Yep. So
kicking off with Oz versus Tonga.
Yep.
And then I believe after that will be Kumals and Fiji.
Yep. When do we have this? What weekend's this kicking off?
So this is Friday 18th. So next weekend, I believe it is next week.
Yeah. So not this week coming. Not this weekend coming. Rather the following. Nice.
Yeah, that's right.
So 2 weeks you might as well say, or week and a half.
Closer to 2.
Yeah. 2 weekends away. So a little bit more football, and as we've seen, it's they've gone pretty well, these sort of competitions, and that it does extend the season out a bit for some players and whatnot. But
for the fans, this is good stuff.
Great for the fans, and great for some players that are had dropped out of the competition early on. They do get a few more runs on the board and get the opportunity to represent their nations and their countries. So countries of heritage. So yeah, it's something I think the league's pretty well spot on with there, and hopefully it can grow. They can start to get a bit more going, whether it be a junior competition with it as well or something. I don't know, but just something else, like you said, for the fans to get into before going into the off season and into Christmas and cricket season. Then
and I don't think teams have been officially announced for these ones yet. There's things thrown around about the Australian team and whatnot, but we don't really know fully until it all is definitely fully announced and is updated on sites and stuff like that.
Yeah, they've whether it be their extended squads and that, I have seen a few the last few days start getting dropped.
It's all just been extended stuff, so we don't really know what's going to be locked in and what's not. So
1 day ago, we do have the Kangaroo squad announced. 1 day ago, whereas Ayo's the captain in that. The Jillaroos squad as well. The Tongan squad and New Zealand squad so far, so we're still yet to see the rest get dropped, and then obviously everyone's positions and shit locked in, what they're all playing, and that's.
I imagine we'll see Fiji and PNG.
Yeah, in the next
tomorrow,
day or two or something. Yeah, exactly right. And then like you said,
shit, even today is Tuesday, so Team List Tuesday coming up hot.
Yep, and then positions locked in. What everyone's playing after that, so. Yeah. Something else to look forward to. That'll probably be it for us for Hit the Gap for the year in terms of the Telstra Premiership, obviously, anyway. We'll make some time in the next fortnight just to do a season review of all the teams, just while we've got a bit of time, because that's going to be a bit of an extended episode. We can actually go a bit more in-depth into how teams went and how they're looking for next year and whatnot. But... yeah, anything from you, Mitchie, before we sign off for this part of it for the year?
I'll give one final try of the week.
Very nice. One
final try of the week. It's got to be Jerome Hughes in that game against the Roosters. I mean, it was some stellar play from Pappenhausen and Meany.
Yeah.
But it's at the 25th minute. and it's a Pappenhausen running a very, very wonky line.
Mm-hmm.
He baits everyone in with a fantastic flick out the back inside to Meany, and then Meany pops it straight over Harbour Bridge into Jerome, and Jerome just runs in clean.
Something we'd seen from most of those guys, but Hughes specifically this year, just running like a
man is always there.
Yeah,
He's just lurking. He's just always lurking.
Yeah,
and there's well and truly deserves Dally M for
Dally M. Yeah, and that's it. Worthy, which I don't think we'd mentioned yet. Worthy recipient of the Dally Messenger Award for the year. So there you go. From the amount of tries and amount of play he's had this year like that, then who could argue really?
And especially in a side where you're playing without your main halves all the time. You just gotta, and even himself battling injury too. It's been a terrible year for injuries for the entire league, not just his team, but he really made it work this year, and he well and truly deserves that medal.
Yep.
I think he's a very big reason why they're in that last game in the first place.
Yep. Very nice. Rightio. Well, with that, we might wrap it up for the year. Again, as always, thanks for listening. Give us a look on Instagram or YouTube, Spotify, whatever you want to follow us on. As I said, we'll be back in a couple of weeks anyway with a bit more of a season review, and then that'll probably be it for a couple of months. We'll have a little bit more free time to figure out what we're going to do with everything next year anyway. But as always, thanks for listening. We look forward to coming back with a bit more next year, next season, and I think it's only 160 something days until round 1 kicks off. So
who's counting?
The countdown's begun. So, yep. But from us here at Hit the Gap, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.